Adult Sabbath School Lesson Study, Proverbs, the book of Luke. This is Hannah Lee. So now let's go to read the lesson 1 through 13. Lesson 1 contents. Lesson 1, the core of wisdom, from ears to feet. 3, a matter of life and death. 4, divine wisdom. 5, the blessings of righteous. 6, what you get is not what you see. 7, dealing with vice. 8, words of wisdom. 9, words of truth. 10, behind the mask. 11, living by faith. 12, the humility of the wise. 13, the woman and wine. Now let's read the lesson 1, the core of wisdom. The core words of wisdom, memory text. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. From Eden onward, the root of human tragedy lies in wrong choices. Man lost all because he chose to listen to the deceiver rather than to him with truth, who alone has understanding by the mingling of evil with good. His mind has become confused. The book of Proverbs is all about helping us to make right choices, to choose the way of God and not that of the deceiver. The father or the mother, speaking to their son, not only warns him against the wrong choices, but also encourages him to make the right ones. This is so important because his choices we make literally matters of life and death. The first 3 chapters of Proverbs illustrated this method of education. After having explained the purpose of the book, to know wisdom, Proverbs chapter 1, 2, and having laid down the motto of the book, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Proverbs chapter 1, 7, compare chapter 9, 10. The author moves back and forth from warning us against listening to foolishness to urging us to respond to the core of heavenly wisdom. Surely this week is lesson to prepare for Sabbath. Like that. Sunday, the beginning of wisdom. In Proverbs chapter 1, 1 through 6, the title, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1 establishes a link between this proverb and 1 Kings chapter 3, 5, verse 5 through 14. In Kings as in the book of Proverbs, Solomon is presented as a son seeking wisdom from God. In addition to both referring to Solomon as the son of David, the 2 texts share significant common wording. Understand wisdom, judgment. Not only do these parallels confirm Solomon as the one behind the composition of the book, they also show that Proverbs is dealing with the human quest for wisdom from God. Read Proverbs chapter 1, 7. What is wisdom? What is the fear of the Lord? How do these 2 concepts relate to each other? Wisdom here is defined as a religious experience. It is related to the fear of the Lord. This important concept of the Hebrew religion is key to Proverbs. Not only does it occur repeatedly, but it also frames the entire book. Proverbs chapter 1, 7, 31, 30. The fear of the Lord has nothing to do with the superstitious superstitious and childish fear of divine punishment. Instead of it, should be understood as the acute consciousness of God's personal presence at all times and everywhere. The fear of the Lord had characterized the people's reaction to God's revelation at Sinai, Exodus chapter 19, 16, 20, just as it explained their commitment to be faithful and to love God in response to his covenant with them, Deuteronomy chapter 10, 12. In short, to fear God means to be faithful to God and to love him. The phrase, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, means that wisdom originates in this fear. The Hebrew word for beginning, reshit, beginning points to the first word introducing the creation story, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. The first lesson of wisdom then deals with understanding that God is our creator, the one who gives us life and breath, and that he is always present, a God of love and justice and redemption. John chapter 3, 16, Psalm chapter 89, 14, Hebrew chapter 9, 12. We are told to love God and also to fear him. How do these two concepts relate to your own experience with the Lord? Monday, the true education. Read Proverbs chapter 1, 8 through 19. What two contrasting ways of education are presented in these verses? What's the basic message here, not just for parents but for everyone who fears the Lord? Education is, first of all, a family matter, and true education comes first and foremost from the parents. In these verses, this education is called instruction and even law. The Hebrew word for law, Torah, means direction. The parents are to point their children in the right direction. In contrast, the other type of education is not identified, not given a name. It is simply acknowledged as the voice of sinners, which leads in the wrong direction. Also, the words, my son, not to be taken in a gender exclusive sense, are repeated many times, emphasizing parental instruction. Each parent, your father, your mother, is clearly identified in the singular and is personally involved, while the other camp is an anonymous plural sinners. In his wisdom, the Lord has directed that the family shall be the greatest of all educational agencies. It is in the home that the education of the child is to begin. Here is his first school. Here, with his parents as instructors, he is to learn the lessons that are to guide him throughout life. The educational influences of the home are decided power for good or evil. If the child is not instructed right here, Satan will educate him through agencies of his choosing. The best argument on behalf of family education is the results its results. These are the inner qualities of character, which are like ornaments on the head and around the neck. In the Middle Eastern culture, precious colors and then bracelets were passed on from parents to children as a heritage of value. Education matters more, though, than material riches. The time spent with our children will be of much greater value for them than the time spent at our business. Also, the reference to the neck and the head, which is the individual's faith, suggests that education will shape his or her personality in the way of fools or sinners. Only the feet, Proverbs chapter 1:15, are mentioned as if the wayward son had lost his identity. How can we learn to resist the temptations that culture, society, friends, or even family might throw our way? Tuesday, the core of wisdom. Read Proverbs chapter 1:20-21. How is wisdom presented here? What are we being told? While the sinners lie in wait and lurk secretly, Proverbs chapter 1:11-18. Wisdom calls aloud outside, verse 20, cries out in the chief concourse, verse 21, and speaks her words. Wisdom is here personified, and her offer is given to the man and the woman on the street. It is for everyone in the real business of life. Amid the noise and rancor of so many products and so many sellers, the call of wisdom must be loud, otherwise she would not be heard against the clamor of so many other voices. What's the rancor and clamor? Read Proverbs chapter 1:22-32. What is the result of rejecting wisdom? The reason that people reject wisdom has nothing to do with the wisdom itself and everything to do with the character of those who reject her. These are described as arrogant and then disdainful. Proverbs chapter 1:25, compare the 30. As if we know better, the implication is that wisdom is for the native and the simple, and yet those who reject wisdom are simple and native. They are fools who hate knowledge. Proverbs chapter 1:22, compare 29. Those who reject wisdom will reap the fruit of their rejection. Having refused to choose the fear of the Lord, they will have to be content with themselves. They will be full with their own fancies. Proverbs chapter 1:31. When we reject wisdom from above, we often end up with the favors and lies that we fabricate for ourselves, or the favors and lies that others fabricate for us and that we so readily accept. In this way, we replace God with idols. Ironically, those who despise religion, mocking those they judge as simple and naive, often are superstitious in their own way, placing value on the most fleeting and useless of things that in the end can never satisfy the most base needs of the heart. Read Proverbs chapter 133, given the context in what came before. What promise and hope are found here for us? How is this promise manifested in our own experience? The core of wisdom lesson. Yeah, what kind of the wisdom like this Wednesday? The benefit of wisdom. Read Proverbs chapter 2, verse 1 through 5. What are the conditions for understanding the fear of the Lord? What choices do we have to make in this matter? Three times the discourse is introduced with the conjunction if, marking three stages in the progression of education. The first, if, introduces the passive stage of listening, that is, simply being receptive and attentive to the words of wisdom. Proverbs chapter 2, 1, 2. The second, if, introduces the active response of crying and asking for wisdom, verses 3. The third, if, introduces passionate involvement in seeking and searching for wisdom as we would for hidden treasures, verse 4. Read Proverbs chapter 2, 6 through 9. What are the conditions for understanding righteousness? What is God's responsibility in the acquisition of wisdom? The acquisition of wisdom. Note that the praise the Lord gives in verse 6 responds to the praise. You will find the knowledge of God in verse 5. Wisdom, like salvation, is a gift from God. As much as the first paragraph describes the human process, this paragraph describes the divine work. He gives wisdom, he stores wisdom, and he guards and preserves the way of the wise. Read Proverbs chapter 2, 10 through 22. What happens when wisdom has finally found a home in the heart? When wisdom enters your hearts, it marks the final stage of conversion. Not only will we enjoy the knowledge of the Lord, but it will be a pleasant experience to our souls. Proverbs chapter 2, 10. We will also be protected from the way of evil, verse 12, and from the seduction of evil, verse 16, and we will walk in the path of righteousness, verse 20. Proverbs 2, 13, 17, you read, what is the first step of wickedness, and where does it head? Where does it lead? Though we are sinners, we don't have to fall into evil. The ones depicted as on the wrong path must have first left the right path. Wickedness then is understood first of all as a lack of faithfulness. Sin begins subtly and innocently, but before long the sinner not only does wickedly but also enjoys it. What should it tell you about yourself? If heaven forbid you enjoy doing evil, or worse, if you don't even deem it evil anymore? Yeah. Tuesday, do not forget. Proverbs chapter 3, 7. What is the trap of being wise in one's own eyes? Read. To be wise in one's own eyes will lead to the illusion that one does not need God to be wise. This is a hopeless situation. There is more hope for a poor than for them. Proverbs 26:12. Again, wisdom is described as a religious commitment. To be wise means to keep God's commandments. Proverbs chapter 3:1, to display mercy and truth, verse 3, and to trust in the Lord, verse 5. Wisdom implies an intimate relationship with God. Note the repeated reference to the heart. Verses 1 through 5. The seed of our personal response to God's influence. The heart was already mentioned in Proverbs chapter 2:10 as the place wisdom should enter. Read Proverbs chapter 3:13 through 18. What reward comes with the gift of wisdom? Wisdom is associated with life and health. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 2 and 8 and 16, 18, 22. One of the most suggestive images is the tree of life. Verse 18, a promise repeated several times in the book. Proverbs chapter 11, 30, chapter 13, 12, chapter 15, 4. This metaphor alludes, A-L-L-U-D-E-S, alludes to the Garden of Eden. This promise does not mean that the acquisition of wisdom will provide eternal life. Instead, the idea is that the quality of life with God, which our first parents enjoyed in Eden, can to some measure be recovered when we live with God. We get some inkling, some hints of Eden. Even better, we learn to hope in the promised recovery of this lost kingdom. See Daniel chapter 7:18. Read Proverbs chapter 3:19, 20. Why is the need for wisdom so vital? The sudden reference to the creation story seems to be out of place in this context. Yet the use of wisdom at creation reinforces the argument of verse 18, which associates wisdom with the tree of life. If God used wisdom to create the heavens and the earth, wisdom is not a trivial matter. The scope of wisdom is cosmic, going beyond the limits of our earthly existence. Wisdom concerns our eternal life as well. This lesson is implied in the reference to the tree of life, reminiscent of the Garden of Eden. This perspective is also contained in the promise that concludes our passage. The wise shall inherit glory. Proverbs chapter 3:35. Friday, further study here. The youth need to understand the deep truth underlying the Bible statement that with God is the foundation of life. Psalms chapter 36:9. Not only is He the originator of all, but He is the life of everything that lives. It is His life that we receive in the sunshine, in the pure, sweet air, in the food which builds up our bodies and sustains our strength. It is by His life that we exist. Our by hour, moment by moment, except as perverted by sin. All his gifts tend to life, to health and joy. Many cherish the impression that devotion to God is detrimental to health and to cheerful happiness in the social relations of life. But those who walk in the path of wisdom and holiness find that godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come. They are alive to the enjoyment of life's real pleasures. Yes, discussion questions. 1. What is the difference between wisdom and knowledge? How can someone have a lot of knowledge and not wisdom? After all, who doesn't know personally, or at least know about some very knowledgeable people who seem to have no wisdom? 2. Dwell more on the idea of the fear of the Lord. If there is no fear in love, First John chapter 4:18. How can we fear the Lord and still love Him? How do we reconcile the tension between justice and love in the fear of the Lord? Number 3, why is being wise in one's own eyes such a dangerous state to be in, especially when we consider how corrupt the human heart is and how easy it is for us to rationalize just about any behavior we want. Think of those who have rationalized the worst of behaviors. How can we make sure we don't do the same thing? Thank you for you just discuss about the discussion questions. It is really important and so funny to discuss with people. Thank you. Have a great first week. Hello, this is Hana. I have a great inside story from the lesson study here. From hump tulips to Alec-Nagic. Life was hard in the western Washington town of Hump Tulips during the 1930s. Located on the Hump Tulips River on the Olympic Peninsula, the town had seen better days of the commercial fishermen trying to earn a living. So one family, the Moody's, found life so difficult in Hump Tulips that they decided to follow Mrs. Moody's brother to Alaska, where, according to the brother, the fishing meant good and there was money to be made. The family of six packed up and traveled the 2,500 miles from Hump Tulips to the Canadian border, then one through British Columbia and the Yukon before heading west to the frontier town of Dillingham, Alaska. From the Dillingham, they headed up the Wood River, finally arriving on the remote shores of the Lake Alec-Nagic. Although Alec-Nagic is a Yupik word meaning wrong way home. And this is so not clear, so that's why I'm reading so sorry, but I try to read with my glasses. The wrong way home, that's meaning you pick the word. The aleknagic is a you pick word meaning is wrong way home. The Moody family found a good place to settle beside the lake, where they built a small log cabin. Mr. Moody and the eldest son took their large fishing boat down into Bristol Bay, home of the world's largest source of red salmon, while Mrs. Moody cared for the 3 younger children at home. Sadly, just a few months after settling into their new home, tragedy struck the Moody family as the father and eldest son headed up the river from Dillingham. Somehow both men ended up in the fast current and drowned, leaving the mother to raise the 2 younger sons and a daughter. Being a family of faith, the mother continued to gather the children for worship, and one Sabbath they met with the uncle and his family. During the week, Mrs. Moody carried out the work of the family fishing business with the help of her 2 younger sons, Leroyd, 14, and Roland, 13. We grew up fast, remembers Roland. We had a mother and a little sister to help. In order to help their family survive, Leroyd and Roland had little time for school as they worked as commercial fishermen near their home. By the time they left, their teens and young men had not yet finished at the rural public school. Early each morning, Roland, who was now 20, built a fire in the school's wood stove, so the place would be warm when the students arrived. During those early mornings, Roland not only warmed up the classroom, he also took the opportunity to get to know the school's beautiful young teacher, Miss Jackie. By the end of the year, they were married and set up a home beside the lake Aleknagic. Yeah, going from Hump Lips to Aleknagic here like this. Continue. Camp Polaris, a guiding star. After they married, Roland and Jackie Moody started talking about ways to reach out to the Native Alaskan community around them and decided to build a Seventh-day Adventist school on their property by the lake. They called it a mission school and offered the 1st through 8th grade students, and the parents were delighted. And kids came from as far away as Nome just to attend the mission school. In order to accommodate the students, 2 dormitories were built. Additionally, the Moody's started an Adventist congregation and built the first Aleknagic Seventh-day Adventist church. As the school grew, Roland and Jackie wanted to provide more for their students, so they started the camp. We just didn't have any place to take the young kids for activities and stuff. We called Roland, and the kids like to go someplace. They named the new place Camp Polaris after the guiding light of the North Star. Roland purchased several old buildings from Creek Cannery, which had gone out of business. He barged these buildings across Bristol Bay to Lake Nyack, and then 12 miles off the lake to Camp Polaris. More than 60 years later, these old cannery buildings are still in use each summer by the children of Western Alaska. For decades, Roland and Jackie enjoyed hosting the children and ferrying them off the lake by barge to the camp. Each year on the last Sabbath of camp, the entire Lake Nyack Adventist Church prepared a feast for the kids and made the 1.5-hour boat trip of the lake to Camp Polaris, where they enjoyed the special Sabbath by the lake with the campers. After Jackie passed away, Roland married Beverly, who helped to continue the Camp Polaris traditions. Over the years, the camp has been a vital ministry to the young people of Western Alaska. Many of the children who attend camp come from less than ideal homes where poverty, alcoholism, and abuse are too often the norm. They often exclaim that going to the camp is the highlight of their year because it is a place where they feel loved, accepted, and cared for. While Roland and Beverly have since retired and moved to Walla Walla, Washington, the ministry of Camp Polaris continues. You can become a part of the special ministry to the children of Alaska by contributing to the Quarter 13th Sabbath offering. To meet some of the children at Camp Polaris, read their stories at www.adventistmission.org/resources here. I'm sorry, but I'm still read with my face because the reading is more easy. But I'm trying to, read at first. I did not ever read this, the story. But though I'm just hesitating the misreading, but I'll try the practice. And then after, it is more easy to read. But I can get this story. At first time, the kind of inside story, at first I'm more moved. So that's why I want to share with you like that. So just if you are the good English, native speaker or the English, second language English, user, it is good for to try to listening or try to speaking. So let's try to read more like this. So sorry, but I'm so confident to read by touch this, spiritual inside the story. Thank you, Jesus. I want to try 1 or 3 times more like that, but I'm just read. Reading is good for me and good for you too. So if you have any interest in this story, you try to listen 2 or 3 more like that. And then you try to reading like this, like me. Thank you. Bye. See you.